there, Tiffany here with Years of Years, and it's this day in Disney for July 26th. And today we are going to talk about an attraction over at Tomorrowland that I really enjoy, and it's also at Disneyland and other parks, the Carousel of Progress. And I'm sure that you guys are very familiar with the voice of the father in the Carousel of Progress, and that was Jean Shepherd. He was a writer, a humorist, an actor, a National Radio Hall of Famer, and of course, like I said, that iconic voice, well, the second iconic voice for Carousel of Progress. The first was Rex Allen, and he was the original father. Anyway, Jean Shepherd was born in Chicago, Illinois, and he was really referred to as Shep by most people who knew him. Ironically, Shep had actually toured the 1964 World's Fair and had seen the Carousel of Progress back then in '64, so he was familiar with it. It's really makes a lot of sense that he had this role because he was, you know, a historic American storyteller of, you know, the right after the turn of the century, going up. He was actually a big radio personality. As I said, he was on the Hall of Fame, Radio Hall of Fame. So he had a lot of talent in radio and was a big radio star for many years. Now, you would also recognize his voice from narrating A Christmas Story, which that was back in 1983. So he narrated, and it was a co-autobiographical work. So he co-autobiographically contributed to the film. So it was based on his life as well. Very, very interesting. I bet you guys didn't know that, and now we should go all watch A Christmas Story and then compare it to our, you know, idea of the father, because I mean, I hadn't put it really together before that he was the voice or the narrator in A Christmas Story. So very talented. Obviously, he has different voices that he's capable of doing. But A Christmas Story, that's an iconic film for us. We watch it every Christmas. And what about you guys? Do you watch A Christmas Story? I love that time period specifically of Christmas in America. It's very like Coca-Cola Christmas, like going to the big department store to get your picture with Santa, having to wear like big amounts of clothes because they don't have the new techie you know, coats, and all the drama that happens with the kids having to put on these giant coats, and just all, you know, everything about it is really iconic, fun, and I think I have it memorized. I've seen it so many times. But anyway, exciting now that to think that the father in the Carousel of Progress and, you know, the narrator for A Christmas Story are the same person. That's really, really interesting and cool. But he is a huge, like I said, radio career, storytelling. He was really good. I think most of the beginning of his radio career after the war, World War II, was at night, like late at night, and it was storytelling, reading poetry. And but he also had comedic stunts. One of his biggest stunts, really, really interesting, I believe, what I think was the I Libertine hoax. So he basically encouraged his listeners to go to the bookstore or you know, petition the New York Times as well to put this book, I Libertine, in their stores and on the New York Times bestseller list. This book at the time did not exist, and so his theory was that, you know, popular opinion would convince them convince the people who make these decisions, you know, because everybody was so excited about this book. His listeners were so excited about I Libertine that anyway, they actually put it on the New York Times bestseller list. So it was a big hoax, a lot of fun. The book actually did get written. So Shepard, Theodore Sturgeon, and Betty Ballantine later wrote the demanded book, and with a cover painted by illustrator Frank Kelly Fries. So it's published by Ballantine Books. So really, really interesting. And this was in 1956. So go look that up if you're interested. I think it's really interesting that they were able to pull, you know, the fans and Shep worked together through his radio show to pull off this amazing hoax. Really interesting that that they were, you know, able to do that, and how popular opinion has such an influence on how things happen. So that was something to think about for sure. Back in the day, in the 1950s, one of his good friends, he had three really good friends, Herb Gardner, Lois Nettleton, and especially I thought was interesting, Shel Silverstein. So I love his books and I grew up reading his books, so I thought that was really cool to see that they were friends. And so, you know, if you're not familiar, but the Giving Tree is like, I think the Giving Tree had a big influence on me from as a small child. I remember that book being read to me many times, so neat that they were friends. And then of course there's many other books by Shel Silverstein. So like he continued in radio for many, many years, but he also has books that he wrote. He also got into jazz music. He's been in television and film. His filmography, all of it, is really extensive. And so I could go on and on. Maybe we'll talk about him in the future because of the extensiveness of his, of everything he did in his life. He's definitely had his hands in a lot of pots, I guess you would say. So he also did live performances and recordings. What I did find about him, I found a video actually of a bunch of comedians, particularly Jerry Seinfeld, who attribute a lot of their talent or just being inspired by Shep. And Jerry Seinfeld says some really kind things about Shep and the influence that he had on him, you know, as a comedian. I mean, if you think about it, like Shep told like the 1930s and 40s, you know, time period, and then of course we had Jerry Seinfeld telling the story. Basically, Seinfeld is the show from, you know, the 80s, early 90s, basically, late 80s, early 90s, and so forth. And so to me, that is like a commentary. And Shep told the story of like more of the gritty life, but also about the family. The family was important and like a positive thing. And I think Seinfeld did the same, like in his own way, telling the story of, you know, the life in New York as single people and more of the gritty reality of their life and what they're doing. Like, there's a lot of honesty about it. That's why it's so hilarious, because we can all relate to some of the things, and I believe that's what Shep was doing also. So it wasn't all polished and clean. It was more accurate to how people were living, the stories they told. So Seinfeld, you can go look this up as well. He definitely, there's some interviews with him talking about Shep. So he attributes a lot to him, and he said that he really formed, this is his quote, he really formed my entire comedic sensibility. I learned how to do comedy from Jean Shepherd. So Seinfeld friends out there who enjoy Jerry Seinfeld and his style of comedy, you want to check out Jean Shepherd for sure, like, or Shep. It's just another avenue of entertainment and storytelling, and I'm so fascinated by storytelling, so I just think this is a neat person to learn about, and I love the Carousel of Progress so much. Tell me, you guys, do you love the Carousel, or is it like your little nap time at the Magic Kingdom? I know it's hard to get in a dark place when you've been walking all day and not fall asleep when it's finally cool, but I think it holds up since the 1964 World's Fair. The concept of it, I think it's really interesting and fun. It's cool to see the different decades that they go through. So we'll see if they make any changes in the future. But anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comments. Thank you so much for all your comments and support. And that's it for this day in Disney. We'll